December 18, 1942. Stalingrad sector. The sky was low, gray, and heavy with snow. The German pilot flying a Messerschmitt Bf 109 couldn't help laughing when he saw it climbing below him. An American P-39 Airacobra, painted with a red Soviet star. He had heard the stories back at the airfield. The Americans were dumping their worst aircraft on the Russians through Lend-Lease, planes so bad even the U.S. Army Air Forces wouldn't fly them. An engine behind the pilot. A long drive shaft running under the cockpit. Car-style doors instead of a canopy. A fighter built backwards. The Luftwaffe pilot waggled his wings to his wingman. Another easy kill. Another tally mark. Then the P-39's nose flashed. Not the stuttering sparkle of machine guns, but a single violent blast. A 37mm cannon shell tore straight through the Daimler-Benz engine block. The German's propeller froze instantly. Oil flooded the windscreen in a black wave. Before he could even register what had happened, a second shell sheared the wing clean off. The laughter ended in less than 2 seconds. Lieutenant Ivan Kozadub, flying that P-39, had been in the aircraft for only 6 weeks. He came from a village outside Chernihiv, where tractors broke down more often than they worked and machinery was something you learned to coax, not fight. American pilots hated the Airacobra. Soviet pilots learned to use it. The difference was altitude. The Americans designed fighters to escort bombers at 25,000 feet over Western Europe. The Eastern Front didn't work that way. Most air combat happened below 10,000 feet, sometimes at treetop height, directly over tanks, convoys, and artillery positions. There were no long bomber streams here. There was mud, snow, smoke, and men killing each other face to face. Below 15,000 feet, the P-39 became something else entirely. Its weaknesses vanished. Its strengths multiplied. The engine behind the pilot gave excellent forward visibility for ground attack. The heavy nose housed the M4 37mm cannon, firing shells powerful enough to rip a fighter in half or punch through the thin top armor of a German tank. The aircraft was heavy, nearly 8,000 pounds loaded, but that weight translated into stability in low-altitude dives. It didn't flutter. It didn't wobble. It hit like a thrown hammer. Soviet mechanics called it Kobrushka, the little cobra. By January 1943, German pilots had stopped laughing. Captain Alexander Pokrishkin, a former factory worker who understood physics better than theory, rewrote Soviet fighter doctrine around the P-39. He ignored Western manuals entirely. Use weight, he told his pilots. Use speed. 1 pass. 1 shot. Leave. The Airacobra carried only 30 rounds for its cannon. That was enough. 1 hit was all it took. Pokrishkin painted a formula on his aircraft. Altitude, speed, maneuver, fire. But on the Eastern Front, altitude meant 3,000 feet, not 20,000. German pilots tried to fight vertically, climbing spirals, energy traps, textbook Luftwaffe tactics perfected in Spain and France. Against P-39s flying low and fast, those tactics failed. While the Germans climbed, the Soviets were already gone, setting up another run. By mid-1943, 6 of the top 10 Soviet aces were flying Airacobras. Not propaganda. Confirmed kills. Witnessed from the ground. The design Americans mocked became a Russian advantage. The Allison engine behind the cockpit acted as armor. Pilots who would have died instantly and other fighters survived because shells hit the engine block instead of their backs. The tricycle landing gear, laughed at by American pilots, made the P-39 safer on frozen rivers and dirt strips. The side doors allowed faster bailout when things went wrong, which they often did. Lieutenant Viktor Golyabev learned that the hard way over Kursk. Jumped by 2 FW-190s, his P-39 took a cannon hit from behind. The engine absorbed it. Golyabev belly landed 8 miles behind Soviet lines, alive. In any other aircraft, he would have been dead. The cannon became legend. German crews called it sound Stalin's hammer. Not chatter, not rattle. A single, brutal thump, and something exploded. The turning point came at Kursk, July 1943. Operation Citadel. The largest tank battle in history. Above it, the sky filled with aircraft. 3 Guards regiments flying P-39s were ordered to stop German dive bombers at any cost. Traditional doctrine said fighters should clear escorts first. Soviet pilots ignored it. They dove straight through the Bf-109s, took damage, lost men, and annihilated the Ju-87 Stukas. One shell could cut a dive bomber in half. In 4 minutes, 17 Stukas fell burning into the battlefield below. German tank crews waiting for air support watched it die in flames before it ever arrived. That day, the Luftwaffe lost so many aircraft that it never fully recovered on the Eastern Front. The price was horrific. P-39 pilots flying ground attack missions faced murderous flak. Life expectancy was measured in weeks. For every ace who survived, several others died before their 10th mission. But the Soviets kept requesting more Airacobras. Bell Aircraft built 9,558 P-39s. Nearly half went to the Soviet Union. They stripped them down, removed wing guns, removed excess armor, sometimes even removed radios. Every kilogram saved mattered. Below 10,000 feet, a stripped P-39 was faster than anything Germany could field. By late 1943, Luftwaffe intelligence reports warned new pilots. Never follow a P-39 low. Never turn with it near the ground. If you hear the cannon, it's already too late. The aircraft America rejected had become one of the most dangerous fighters on the Eastern Front. And the joke was finally over. The man who designed the P-39, Robert Woods, probably never imagined where his aircraft would find its purpose. A schoolteacher from Minnesota turned engineer, Woods had built the Airacobra as a high-altitude interceptor. The prototype had been elegant, turbo-supercharged, fast, and clean. Then reality intervened. The U.S. Army demanded armor, more guns, self-sealing fuel tanks, redundancy. Weight climbed by nearly 1,000 pounds. The turbo-supercharger, expensive, complex, was deleted. By the time the P-39 entered service, it was no longer the aircraft Woods had envisioned. Too heavy to climb well, too slow at altitude, dangerous in certain flight regimes. American pilots in the Pacific abandoned it quickly. The British tried it once and sent it back. In U.S. service, the Airacobra became a disappointment bordering on embarrassment. In Soviet hands, it became a weapon. The Soviets didn't ask what the P-39 was supposed to be. They asked what it could do. They removed what they didn't need. Radios incompatible with Soviet frequencies disappeared. Wing-mounted machine guns were stripped out to save weight. Oxygen systems were removed entirely. Why carry oxygen when you never flew above 10,000 feet? Every kilogram lost improved performance where it mattered. Low, fast, brutal. A stripped Airacobra could exceed 350 miles per hour at sea level, faster than anything Germany could field down low. It accelerated well in a dive, held together under stress, and delivered destruction through a cannon that demanded only patience and discipline. The mechanics were as important as the pilots. Staff Sergeant James Morrison, one of the few Americans sent to the Soviet Union to assist with maintenance training, couldn't believe what he saw. Soviet ground crews worked in temperatures 40 degrees below zero with no heated hangars, no proper tools, and almost no spare parts. They improvised relentlessly. Gaskets were cut from leather. Hydraulic lines came from captured German equipment. Damaged control surfaces were rebuilt with wood from ammunition crates. Morrison once watched a propeller blade repaired using a railroad rail and a blowtorch. The aircraft flew another 60 combat missions. In the cold, the Allison engine revealed another secret. It loved winter. Where American pilots worried about liquid cooling systems in combat, Soviet pilots discovered that keeping engines warm mattered more than protecting radiators. They never shut them down fully. Even at night, even under camouflage, engines were started every 2 hours to keep oil from freezing into sludge. When German aircraft struggled to start in the morning, the Airacobras were already airborne. The P-39's tricycle landing gear, mocked in the West, became a blessing on frozen lakes, dirt strips, and snow-covered fields. Lieutenant Nikolai Levitsky landed his damaged Airacobra on a frozen river, took off the next morning, and flew it back into combat after repairs made with parts scavenged from a destroyed German truck. In July 1943, at Kursk, the Airacobra reached its peak. The Germans launched Operation Citadel with nearly everything they had left. The Luftwaffe put up close to 2,000 aircraft. The Red Air Force answered with everything it could scrape together. including 3 Guards regiments flying P-39s. The sky above Prokhorovka became chaos. Captain Kirill Yevstygniev led 12 Airacobras straight through a fighter screen protecting 87 Stukas. Traditional doctrine would have demanded clearing the escorts first. He ignored it. His pilots accepted damage, losses, chaos, all to reach the dive bombers. The 37mm cannons turned the Stukas into burning wreckage. One shell could sever a wing or detonate fuel tanks instantly. In minutes, 17 dive bombers were destroyed. Below, German tank crews watched their air support die before it ever reached the battlefield. The Luftwaffe never recovered from that day. The Airacobra also became a terror to ground forces. The cannon could penetrate the thin top armor of Panzer IVs and even threaten Tigers when attacking from above. Dive angles were steep, precise, and deadly. Soviet pilots learned to fire once, never twice, and pull out barely 50 feet above the ground. Senior Lieutenant Arseny Vorozhaikin perfected the technique. In a single day during the retreat from Orel, he destroyed 6 tanks. His mechanic painted tank silhouettes alongside aircraft kills. By war's end, Vorozhaikin had destroyed 46 aircraft and 18 tanks. To Soviet pilots, the P-39 wasn't a fighter. It was flying artillery. The Germans noticed. Luftwaffe intelligence reports from 1943 stopped calling the P-39 inferior. The language changed to dangerous at low altitude. Pilots were warned not to pursue Airacobras below 3,000 meters. Bomber crews began refusing missions without heavy escort when P-39s were reported nearby. Captured German pilots spoke of the psychological effect. Not fear. Pride didn't allow that word, but respect. They described attacks that came without warning, low and fast, ending before a response was possible. By the time they reacted, their wingman was already burning. One German interrogation transcript noted the sound of the cannon specifically, not chatter, but a heavy boom, unmistakable. Crews called it Stalin's hammer. The cost remained terrible. Flying low meant flak. Flak meant death. Life expectancy for a P-39 pilot on the Eastern Front averaged 30 combat missions. For every ace who survived, 5 others died early. But aircraft were scarce, and pilots knew that losing a plane might mean never flying again. They and their mechanics treated each Airacobra like a living thing. They named them. They spoke to them. They kept them alive by any means necessary. Captain Ivan Babik called his P-39 Masha after his wife. When the aircraft was finally too damaged to repair, he cut the painted name from the fuselage and carried it with him for the rest of the war. By late 1944, the Luftwaffe on the Eastern Front was breaking apart. Fuel shortages, pilot losses, industrial collapse. Yet Airacobras kept flying through snowstorms, fog, and freezing rain that grounded other aircraft. Mechanics learned to make engines run on captured fuel, alcohol, even vodka mixed with aviation gasoline when desperate. The engines knocked. They smoked. They ran. The P-39 wasn't perfect. It was right. Right for low altitude. Right for short range. Right for brutal, unforgiving warfare over mud, snow, and burning armor. The Americans saw a failed interceptor. The Soviets saw a warhorse, and they rode it straight into the heart of the German army. When the war ended, the Airacobra quietly disappeared from American memory. In the United States, it remained a failed design, a fighter that never lived up to expectations. In the Soviet Union, it was remembered differently. Pilots who had flown the P-39 carried its lessons into the jet age. They understood low-altitude energy fighting, precision fire, and discipline over ego. Many became instructors, test pilots, commanders. The aircraft that America rejected helped shape the next generation of Soviet air power. Years later, when Western engineers asked Soviet veterans why they loved a plane Americans despised, the answer was always the same. It worked where we fought. The P-39 was never meant to be a hero. It became one because the people who flew it refused to fight the wrong war. Same airplane, same flaws, different hands. And on the Eastern Front, that made all the difference.